Good afternoon. I call this meeting to order. Today we're going to be considering three bills. S-2711, the Native American Education Opportunity Act. S-2959, a bill to amend the White Mountain Apache Tribe Water Rights Quantification Act of 2010 to clarify the use of amounts in the WMAT Settlement Funds. And S-Con Res 49, the Protect Patrimony Resolution. The bill S-2711 was introduced in March of this year by Senator McCain to address school choice for Indian students. The committee held a legislative hearing on the bill on April 6th of this year. Senator McCain will offer one substitute amendment, which he will speak on a little bit later. The bill S-2959 was introduced May 19th by Senator McCain along with Senator Flake. S-2959 would authorize existing settlement funds to be used for the tribe's rural water system. The committee held a legislative hearing on this bill on March 29th. Senator McCain will offer one amendment on that as well. The Senate Concurrent Resolution 49 was introduced by Senator Udall along with Senators McCain and Heinrich on July 14th of this year to address international trafficking of Indian tribal cultural items and human remains. The Government Accountability Office is required to conduct a study regarding trafficking of Indian cultural items under this resolution and three other measures. I would urge the sponsors of these measures to coordinate on these requirements so that these resources are most effectively used for this important study. Senator Udall has one amendment to this resolution, which he will speak to in a few moments. Before we turn to the bills, I would like to ask the members if they have a statement to make, beginning with the Vice Chairman, Senator Tester.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank you for holding this business meeting with only a few weeks left in the legislative calendar. It is important to keep committee activities a priority. We're going to be voting on three different items today, a resolution and two bills. And while I'm supportive of the Protect resolution and will vote in favor of the White Mountain Apache bill, I am concerned about the third bill, S-2711, the BIE voucher bill. Most folks know that before I was a senator, I was a public school teacher and a local school board member. I believe public education is the foundation of our democracy, and I believe in the power of community schools. But I do not believe in any program that would divert public education funds to private entities with limited accountability. Putting tribal education at the mercy of a voucher program is a surefire way to handicap congressional oversight and take away accountability from the people most impacted by those education systems, which are tribes, Native parents, and local communities. Every Congress, we hear about the problem of lack of funding for Native education and the problems that has caused. Just in the last few months alone, we've heard stories about students attending schools with boarded over windows, dangerously old boilers, no internet access. We know that BIE maintenance and operational items have been underfunded by 50% for years, if not decades, and that there is $1 billion backlog in BIE school construction. But instead of addressing those needs head on, we're going to today consider a bill that would create a separate line item to subsidize the voucher plans of a handful of states at the expense of tribal schools across this country and at the expense of Native youth. Not a good choice. Unlike the choices promised by this bill, we here in Congress and on this committee do have a choice. Let's choose not to take away funds from the BIA. Let's choose to invest in Native language classes, quality teachers, safe buildings. Let's choose to show Native youth that we believe in them by investing in their education through BIE schools. Plain and simple, this bill shortchanges tribal schools and threatens the foundation of public education on reservations across this country. I urge each of my colleagues to join me in standing up for tribal schools with a no vote on S-2711. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Tester. Any other senators want to make an opening statement? Senator McCain.
I can't help but respond to that last status quo argument. So, the senator from Montana wants the status quo. BIE schools that every new school year has begun for 41,000 Native American students in 185 BIE schools around the nation. Half of them will not graduate high school. So that's fine with the senator from Montana. Half of them won't. Their test scores will trail by double digits compared to their peers attending public schools in urban areas. That's fine with the senator from Montana. Audits by the Government Accountability Office have drawn this committee's attention to the disrepair. Why is there disrepair? I would ask my colleagues, because they don't spend the money, and when they do spend the money, then those schools are damaged and harmed. we've learned that some of the BIE schools have not been inspected for safety in 10 years. In 10 years, they've not been inspected. Yet BIA spends more money on Native American students than most other systems in the nation, an estimated $15,000 per student per year. So even though we spend more money per student at the BIE schools, the senator from Montana, by God, wants the status quo. That's great. Shame on you. That's all I can say. And I can tell you this, the charter schools have succeeded off reservation. Charter schools have failed. Charter schools have succeeded. In my home state of Arizona, I'm proud of the charter schools. But according to the senator from Montana, the kids who live, and only half of them graduating on the reservation, are not going to be allowed to have the same choice that the non-native students will in my state of Arizona. Status quo is fine with the senator from Montana. It is not fine with me. It is not fine with the parents of St. Michael's School in the Navajo Reservation who have chosen to send their kids with a long waiting list. It's not fine with the presence of the parents of the kids who have sent their kids to the Star School on the Navajo Reservation who find that their kids are getting a good education. So I tell you, my colleagues, this is really a simple vote. You want the status quo? You want the situation as it is today? Or do you want to try to give these kids a choice, which obviously the senator from Montana does not want?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Vice Chairman.
I really don't want to get into debate with the senator from Arizona about this issue, but if you'd like
I'd love a debate on it.
I would
love to get into a debate with the senator from Montana.
And I love the passion, Senator McCain, I love the passion. But the fact is if you want to talk about the failure in public education, we all need to look in the mirror. And you can talk about how great things are with the voucher systems, and you can talk about how great things are with taking kids out of the public education, but quite frankly, this bill takes it from every tribe in this country. And you can talk about the fact that we're spending twice as much as the national average. We're talking about remote schools here. And the fact is that I'd be more than happy to have every tribal school in the country come in here and testify to this committee about how much extra money they have to blow on education. But you know that's not correct.
Senator Udall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to speak to my amendment and also the resolution itself on SCON 49, the Patrimony resolution. I'd like to thank the chairman and vice chairman. My amendment is very simple, that would clarify the definition of Native American to be consistent with other legislation as it pertains to consultation. Lastly, my amendment changes the call for a GAO study and instead supports their ongoing efforts. Again, appreciate the chairman and vice chairman working with me on this issue. And briefly, I want to thank my colleagues, Senator McCain and Senator Heinrich, for joining me as original co-sponsors of this resolution. In New Mexico, we have a rich cultural history rooted in Native American tradition that is the bedrock of who we are as New Mexicans. Our 23 tribes enrich us, which is why it's particularly disturbing for me that a few people have exploited the loopholes in current laws meant to stop the theft of important cultural items and have exported deeply important sacred objects to other countries to be sold as art. These items are not pieces of art, they are sacred objects, deeply important for tribal identity, and we need to put a stop to the trafficking of these objects. My resolution strongly condemns the theft, illegal possession or sale, and export of tribal cultural items. Additionally, it calls on federal agencies to take affirmative action to stop the aforementioned practices and work to secure repatriation of tribal cultural items back to tribes. Earlier this year, I raised this issue with Secretary Jewell and asked the Department of Interior to work on this issue as part of their trust responsibility. We had a recent hopeful story working with the Pueblo of Acoma. An upcoming auction of the Acoma Shield in Paris was canceled after outreach by myself, Senator Heinrich, and other U.S. government officials to the auction house and to French officials. Our resolution today also encourages state and local governments, along with groups and organizations, to work cooperatively in deterring these practices. This is a problem that affects all of us, and we need to work collectively to put a stop to this. Again, I appreciate the chairman and vice chairman for working with me on this issue and respectfully request the committee's approval. Yield back.
Thank you, Senator Udall. Any other senators like to make an
Chairman.
opening statement? Senator McCain.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to associate myself with the remarks of Senator Udall. This is a very serious issue. The absolute looting of the artifacts that are so important and vital to not only Native American history, but American history. I'd just like to say a word about the Minor Flat Dam, if I could. The White Mountain Apache tribe is currently facing a drinking water crisis. Groundwater wells on the reservation have dropped by 50%. Segments of the tribe's White River are expected to run dry by 2020. The tribe urgently needs to complete construction of their Minor Flat Dam and reservoir to safeguard their future water supplies. This bill makes technical amendments to the tribe's 2010 water settlement to cover construction overruns for the dam. There have been overruns, but, Mr. Chairman, the bill that authorized the Minor Flat Dam was done at great expense to the tribe. We have an obligation to complete this dam, and we should condemn none of our citizens to a situation where they have their water supply contaminated and even disappearing. So I urge my colleagues to support this amendment. I thank the chairman.
Thank you, Senator McCain. Any other senators wishing to make an opening statement? Seeing none, we'll take up S. 2711, the Native American Education Opportunity Act. One amendment in the nature of a substitute has been filed by Senator McCain. The amendment was filed outside the 48-hour rule. I ask the vice chairman if he agrees to waive the rule. Move to consider the substitute amendment. We'll first have a vote on the amendment. Is there a second? Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor? And then we'll go a roll call on the final passes. Yes, sir. So any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none. All those in favor of the substitute amendment, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. All right. That is adopted. Now we'll go to a roll call, which has been requested on the final bill. I ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mr. McCain? Ms. Murkowski? Mr. Hoven? Mr. Langford? Mr. Daines? Mr. Crapo?
Aye by proxy.
Mr. Moran?
Aye by proxy.
Ms. Cantwell? Mr. Udall? Mr. Franken?
No by proxy.
Mr. Schatz? Ms. Heitkamp?
No by proxy.
Mr. Tester?
No.
Mr. Brasso?
Aye. Clerk will report.
The ayes are 7, the nays are 6.
The amendment S27, the amendment passes 7 to 6. Next, move to consideration of S27. Let's see. Now move to S2959. An amendment has been filed by Senator McCain. I move to consider the amendment ARP 16220. Is there a second? Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The amendment, the opinion of the chair, the amendment passes. Now to consideration of the bill 2959 as amended. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The amendment passes by voice vote. We'll now take up S-Con Res 49, the Protect Patrimony Resolution. An amendment has been filed by Senator Udall. I move to consider the amendment ARP 16222. Is there a second? Any discussion? Further discussion, Senator Udall? Being none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The amendment passes. I want to thank the members for getting the business of the committee completed expeditiously today. I ask unanimous consent the staff be allowed to make technical and conforming changes. Okay, for clarification, the amendments for the bills proposed have passed. The bills themselves have passed, and the Senate Concurrent Resolution 49 as amendment has passed. There being no further confusion or discussion, no objections or further business before the committee, the meeting is adjourned.